welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be doing a comparison video between two palettes that are super similar, and that is the Crown Brushes 35C palette and the Morphe 35C palette. So for a little while I did think that the Morphe 35C palette was discontinued because it was no longer available on their website, and I tried looking online on other websites that sold it and it kept saying out of stock everywhere. So then I decided to email Morphe and see what was going on, and they didn't really tell me much. All they said was that the products that they had on their website is what they have right now, and anything else is temporarily out of stock. And that was all they said. So I just took it as this palette is never coming back, and I was so upset because I always would put it in my cart and it was only $20 and I never ended up getting it until one day it finally came back in stock, and I finally ended up picking it up, and I'm so glad that I did because this palette is worth every single cent. So basically this is an all matte colorful palette. I ended up picking up the Crown Brushes 35C palette, which I was told was an exact dupe. And as I was looking at it, it kind of looked similar, but there were a little bit of shades that looked a little bit off. Honestly, when I first saw this palette, I was like, it almost has like lackluster. It's not as bright as I thought it would be for a super bright eyeshadow palette, if that makes sense. And then when I got the Morphe 35C palette, then I saw the intensity that I was hoping for in the Crown Brushes palette. So these are them side by side. On my right here, this is the Crown Brushes, and this one is the Morphe brushes. So I don't know if you guys can tell much of a difference, but the Morphe one is definitely a lot more pigmented. It's a lot more intense than the Crown Brushes one, which you guys will see in my demonstration. So basically what I ended up doing was, on my left side I used the Morphe brushes palette, and on my right side I used the Crown Brushes palette. So that way I could really see how both of them performed side by side before really giving my opinion as to whether or not you should just get the Morphe palette or if it doesn't really matter. But one more thing that I really did want to address is, because I do have the Morphe 35B palette as well, which that one is more shimmers and mattes, so it's not just mattes. That one looks like this, and this one looks more of like a rainbow than the other one, but I wanted to pick this one up anyway because it did have some colors that this one didn't have, and since it was all matte, I just wanted to pick it up so that way I had a little bit more colors to play with and I could get more inspired instead of always doing neutral looks. If you do have the 35B palette, you don't necessarily need the 35C palette, but this does make a great addition. So this is the 35B. This is the 35C. So as you can see, this one has more lighter shades than this one. The one thing I really loved about this palette is that down here it has these two rows of neutrals and then some bright oranges, which is great to incorporate in colorful looks. If you are scared of color, you have your neutrals still in this palette, and then you have the colorful eyeshadows as well that you can mix in. So I wouldn't say that, oh, if you get this one, it's like getting this one, because it definitely isn't. So if you guys want to find out which palette I did end up preferring, and if you guys want to see how these palettes compare side by side, then please continue watching. Alright, so I've already filled in my eyebrows and I've primed my eyes with my Urban Decay Anti-Aging Priming Potion, which is one of my favorites. And because I always do this no matter what bright eyeshadows I'm using, I'm going to go ahead and use my NYX white eyeshadow base on my eyelids, just because since I do have darker skin, even the most expensive bright eyeshadow won't show up unless if I do this. Or it will show up, but it'll just look like a light wash. So I'm just going to take one of my Jessup brushes. This is like a little mini stippling brush, and I'm gonna pack on that white base on there and just start stippling it on my eye. And I'm mostly gonna focus it in the crease, like no higher than the crease, so I don't want to go past this area here. And I'll just take my finger and just blend it out so that way it's not super harsh. And I'm literally just, I guess you could say I'm using that same stippling motion on my eye as well. I use the brush because it gives me better pigmentation. So at first it always looks a little crazy when I first do this part, but I promise it all comes together. So next what I end up doing is I take a flat eyeshadow brush, and on my left eye, which is this eye right here, I'm going to go ahead and use my Morphe 35C palette, and then on my right eye, I'm going to go ahead and use the Crown Brush palette. So I'm going to start off with the white eyeshadow on this side to set And then I'll use the white shadow from the Crown Brush palette on this eye. So definitely so far, I don't know if you guys can tell on camera, but the white is definitely more pigmented from the Morphe brushes than with the Crown brushes, which is kind of what I've experienced with the swatches anyway. But this is my first time trying to do the same look with this palette on both eyes, so we'll see. So next I'm going in with my Morphe M533 brush, and I am going to go in with this hot pink color here. And then just so that way the eyeshadows don't get confused, I'm just taking the little piece of toilet paper and just going to go ahead and wipe off any of the excess eyeshadow. And then I'm going to go in with the Crown brushes color that's supposed to be hot pink, but if you look at them, this one's definitely more purple than this one. So far it's looking pretty similar. So next I'm going to go in with my Morphe M441 brush, and then I'm going to go into this pretty cranberry color right here. And this is from the Morphe palette. Very pigmented. You guys see that? And I'm just going to go back in with my M533 brush, and I'm just going to use it to blend out the edges really quick. So then I'll take the brush, just clean off the excess. And if you could do this with a napkin, paper towel, it would be a lot more effective. So then I'll go in with that same shade in the Crown Brushes palette. Seems to blend out a lot easier. I think the Morphe one was a little bit patchier, but it was also more pigmented. So I'm just building up that color, which isn't something that I have to do with the Morphe palette. So next I'm going to go into the bright yellow shade, and I'm taking that on my Morphe M224 brush, which is a flat synthetic brush. It's one of my favorites for packing on very bright colors or shimmery color. I really get the pigmentation that I want with it. I definitely think that these like matte yellows are always really hard to make, because I've yet to find a matte bright yellow shade. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's pigmented, but I really have to build up the pigmentation when I start packing it onto my eye. So I'll just go ahead and start packing that on. And since it is a matte shadow, I think that's what makes it a little harder to pack it onto. On camera it's looking great, but in person definitely needs some help. So then the Crown Brushes one definitely isn't as pigmented. Well, it's not as bright. Yeah, this is definitely more of a pastel. Can you guys tell? This eye right here isn't as bright as this one. So I'm going to go ahead and try to see if my finger will make it more bright, because it's just not as bright as the other eye. That looks a little bit better. So next I'm going to go in to the matte purple color right here. I'm going to take that on this taper pointed brush from the Morphe Dream set, which if you guys haven't noticed, I've been obsessed with these brushes lately. They're just so soft. I'm going to start by, holy crap, this is pigmented. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply that onto the outer V. I love this brush because of the fact that it's pointed. It places the product exactly where I want it, but at the same time it blends it out because it's fluffy. And I'm taking just a little bit of that on the very tip, and I'm just going to bring that in the crease a little bit. Very light pressure, that way I get it really in the crease. So then I just went ahead and cleaned it off like always, going into the Crown Brushes. And then this one is a little bit deeper than the Morphe one, which I kind of wish the Morphe one was more deep. Like create the little V shape, so I always start with the lash line and then I bring it into the crease. And what I do to find my crease is I just press it in a little bit and you kind of see where the fold is. That's where your crease is. The further in the crease that I go, the lighter the pressure I use. So here, I definitely can see that the purple on this side is more intense than this side. Like here's a soft wash, here's bold. So I'm gonna build up the Morphe one. So then to just intensify it, and because I always love testing out blacks because I feel like that's the true test as to how good an eyeshadow palette is, I'm going to go ahead and use the lighter of the two black shades. So as you see up here, there's these three shades that are pretty dark. This is like a charcoal gray. This is like a dark charcoal gray, and this is a pure black. So I'm going to use this. So I'm using my M506 brush, which I absolutely love this brush. It's so perfect for these small little detailed works. Of course, this is the Morphe side. So I'm literally only applying it on my outer V, and I'll go back in with a different brush to blend everything in. So then going into the crown brushes one. So then I'll go back in with that tapered brush from earlier that we were using. Just grab some of the purple from the Morphe palette first. And then going in with my secret weapon, which is the Morphe M514 brush. This little tiny baby blending brush. So I didn't realize that my camera stopped filming because it overheated. So basically I did the same thing that I did on this eye with the purple. So I'm just going to keep blending. Right now I'm using the M514 brush. So then I'm going to go back in with both of the yellows and just re-intensify the lid shade a little bit. Just since all the blending, I definitely think that the yellow got a little lost. And as you see, I just pack it on and I kind of go in a circle. So that way I'm not making any harsh lines there and it's nice and blended. So I'm going to let my camera cool down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do my wing eyeliner. I do have a tutorial on that. I'm going to do the same exact technique that I did on that video. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick and then I'll come right back. So now that the rest of my face is done, I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit of brow bone highlight since I forgot. And I'm using Wet n Wild Creme Brulee. And I'll just use the same shade on both sides. So then I'm going to go ahead and use this teal eyeliner from NYX. So after I do my waterline, then I just go ahead and do my lower lash line. So then what I'm going to go ahead and do is take my little pencil brush from the Morphe Copper Dream set, and I'm going to go ahead and take the teal shade in the Morphe palette first and go ahead and put it on my left eye. And I am leaving this inner part empty. Teal shade from the Crown Brushes palette. So definitely the teal shade from the Crown Brushes palette is a little darker, but it's still pretty pigmented. And next, just to add a little bit of sheen, I am going to take my Ulta Glitter Tears, and this is in the shade Galaxy. I'm obsessed with these things. If you guys see them in Ulta, I definitely recommend you pick them up. And then I'm just going to go ahead and take some of that and put it on my lower inner corner lash line. So I'm going to go ahead and take NYX Brown Lip Liner and just line my lips with that. And I always, whenever I'm going to use a new lipstick, do a brown lip so that way my lips don't look washed out. And then I'm going to take Colourpop Hotline, and this is a Matte X lipstick. And I'm just going to apply a little bit of Daydream right on top just because I'm not really liking this color with the eye look. And before I forget, let me go ahead and put on some mascara really quick and I'll be right back. So this is the finished look. So overall, I definitely prefer the Morphe brushes palette over the Crown brushes palette, only because I thought that the Morphe brushes palette was a little bit more intense and pigmented than the Crown brushes palette. I did have to build up some of these colors a little bit more than the Morphe palette, but I will definitely say that the Crown brushes palette kind of blended out a little bit easier with some colors compared to the Morphe one. Some of the colors were a little bit patchy, but it wasn't something too crazy that I couldn't work with. I definitely was able to make it work. All in all, I think this look came out really, really nice. It's very similar on both eyes. I did test out some of the colors that I know tend to be some dud matte shades, which is the matte yellows and the matte blues. They usually are the harder ones to formulate, and even sometimes the matte purples. So I really, really love how this look came out. I don't really think that one eye looks that much different than the other than the fact that this yellow on this eye is more bright than this yellow on this eye, which is something that I notice and I'm sure you guys would notice. But if I were to walk outside and go about my day with this eye look, I bet you no one would notice. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and if you guys did enjoy this look and do decide to recreate it, please don't forget to tag me in my social medias. I would definitely love to see your guys' recreation on this look. And as always, if you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you do click the red subscribe button and click on the notification button as well, so that way you guys are informed as to when I post videos. I do have a lot of informative videos coming up soon besides just tutorials, and a lot more talk through videos, which I do enjoy making. I just have to find the time to be able to do them, but I am gonna be doing those as well. And if you guys have any requests at all, please don't hesitate to leave them down below in the comment sections. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Until then.